So we are here at Wanderlust Tremblant, and I have the amazing opportunity to talk with Seane Corn. She's a world-renowned yoga teacher and inspiring women and amazing yoga teacher. And so I have a few questions for you today. I was wondering, actually I read somewhere that when you started yoga, you always skipped Savasana at the end of your class. What would you say to students who now do the same?
I wouldn't recommend it. It's without a doubt the most important pose of a practice. You know, at that time, I was a younger student, restless in my body. I think that at the end of the class, stuff would come up for me. I would actually feel anxious because you're doing all this yoga, moving all this energy, and then you get still and the teacher starts to speak or play music. And I wasn't aware of it, but I think I would feel emotional. And instead of just being able to sit with the emotions, I would get anxious, fidget, look around, get bored. And Shavasana just felt like a complete waste of time. I didn't always not take Shavasana, but even when I was in Shavasana, my eyes would be open, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to be finished. And it took a little while. I finally had an experience where I relaxed in Shavasana, and when I came out of it, I thought I had fallen asleep, and I was kind of freaked out, but I felt amazing. And in time, I understood that all of these practices have to be balanced between the yang and the yin. And as you're stimulating all that energy, you need to find ways to ground, to stabilize, to nurture and nourish before you go back out into the world. And the older I get, the more I realize how important restorative poses like Shavasana are on the whole of the system. So, do your Shavasana. Deal with it, breathe, do whatever you can to relax, and know that it's an essential part of the holistic experience.
What would you say to someone who's never done yoga?
Find your sense of humor. It really does come down to that. I think people get intimidated by yoga. What I hear mostly is that I'm not flexible enough for yoga, and people sometimes they don't understand that on a physical level you get flexible by doing yoga, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about sensation, about learning how to be with your edge, and about learning how to witness yourself in moments that are perhaps confrontive or challenging, or where you feel limited and your ego comes up and all sorts of stuff gets revealed. That's a huge part of the practice emotionally, and that has nothing to do with flexibility or strength. So someone who wants to get into yoga, I say bring your sense of humor, be patient with yourself, minimize your expectations, just breathe deeply, take 1,000 breaks, and modify the poses in accordance to what your needs might be. Check your ego at the door. No one's watching you. No one cares. And most importantly, though, if you are mindful and good to yourself in the practice, you really are going to feel amazing when you're done, even if your hamstrings barely budged, even if you see no difference in the rotation of your shoulders. Just by beginning to move some of that energy is going to impact your stress levels and make you feel just more grounded, present, and confident.
Any arguments to convince someone to do yoga?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that, because I know that if someone tried to convince me into something, it would pull me away. I feel that if someone is into yoga and they really want their partner, children, co-worker to do it, live as an example. Just be happy, just be fulfilled, just keep doing your yoga practice, be really mindful and patient and accepting where other people are at. People pay attention. If in time, if they feel safe and trusting and they're like, what are you doing? What's going on here? And then once that happens, you've been given permission to share, and then you can share about your experience, invite them into that experience if they're open to it. But by trying to convince someone to get it, it might not be their path, and it might not be their time. And so from my feeling is mind your own business, do your practice, live as an example, and if someone asks, then generously offer them an opportunity to experience it for themselves.
Is there something that people overlook in their practice that is so important?
Breath. The breath is the most single important thing in this experience. If someone came into one of my classes and sat down the entire time, but I could see them breathing with me and keeping the pace of the room with their breath, that is a complete yoga practice. They are energetically, systematically, their nervous system, their hormonal system, they are transforming. And so I think what happens though, people come into these classes, they get excited, a little overwhelmed, and they put the pose before the breath, and they just start to pant or hold the breath. And it takes time to learn how to master that rhythm. It's definitely a practice, but I've seen some students who've been doing this for years and their breath is still compromised. They haven't accepted or responded to that discipline. And so, yes, that is the thing. The single most important thing would be to breathe deeply, and probably that, and perhaps letting go of some of the competition with themselves or with the other people on the mat. That's something also I feel that people should just, it's also part of the process, but to learn to let go of.
You've been practicing for so many years. Is there something that you still struggle to do?
Pose-wise? Yeah. A pose called dancer pose is a pose that's really difficult for me. For whatever reason, it hits three main areas that individually I'm very open in those areas, but when you put it all together, it's like I got nothing. And I watch other practitioners seem to approach it effortlessly. I look at their bodies and try to think, what are the mechanics that my body won't engage? And I know what it is in my body, what's happening, and yet after all these years, I can do it. If you were to look at it, it would look fine, but internally, I know that I just kind of slightly cheat it a little bit. But that's probably one of the poses that, to do it really, in terms of anatomically sound, it's one of the poses I cheat around a little bit because my body just won't grab it. I struggle all the time. It's part of it. It doesn't matter the level of your flexibility or strength. You hit these plateaus. And I think though, after what's experiences, I don't get attached to those plateaus. I don't need to get more flexible. I don't need to get stronger. It's all about sensation for me. One day my edge is going to look different than another day, depending on how I slept, my diet, traveling. And so wherever that edge is, I just stay present to that and breathe. And so no matter how flexible I get, there's always another edge to be explored. And so, I don't think I'll ever really consider myself an advanced practitioner. I'm advanced on a physical level. But that's only because my hamstrings and my joints are open. They've always been open. I've been born flexible. So I don't really look at that as being an advanced student. I'll consider myself an advanced student when the day that I can get through an entire week without flipping someone off on the road because they cut me off. The week I can master that and in conflict remain really solid, compassionate, present, then I'll be like, okay, I'm onto something, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Thank you so much for answering my question.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Have a good festival.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.